Hey guys, Kenny here, and today I want to make it really clear about this free not sober. I'm doing this blog, and it's all about the importance of our language, what we tell our subconscious, what we believe, and all about having choices today. And the reason why I really feel like it's important that I make this video, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine's mom, and she was telling me that not her son, but a friend of her son and mine, like we're friends and we have mutual a friend. He just OD'd about 2 weeks ago and passed away. And it's important that this message gets out there, and the only way that I know to get it out there right now, my dream is to have, again, the blog, books, other ways to really get this message out crystal clear so that lives are more likely not destroyed. So anyway, here we go. Let's just start here. Let's say that down here, you have people that use and abuse drugs and are hooked. Maybe it's alcohol too, and they're pretty deep in the addiction, right? And so somehow they get to like a 12-step program and they get clean, they get free, and they're no longer doing that, and so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just pretend like there's 12 steps here, right? And there's some growth, there's some change, there's some improving going on, right? There's a lot of lessons in here that this program, 12-step programs teach. Like there's AA and NA or whatever, and there's other A's out there too. So, and I speak from experience because I have been on this journey. I was also down here where I used and abused drugs and was hooked, pain medication, things like that. Went to the 12-step program, got free, and something kind of like bubbled up, or I realized that, I don't want to stop here. I want to get way up here, which for me, way up here, this is true freedom. That looks like a G, like trug. It's not, it's true freedom. And like life, unlimited, uncapped potential right up here. And I believe this is possible for every single person that is alive. And why? Because of who we truly are. We are love, we are awareness, we are consciousness. We're not, down here, it served me to identify myself as an addict, which I no longer do. Same thing with like alcoholic, no longer do. And I'll tell you why. That anyway, down here, I think it served a purpose to get me from here to here, this first step, right? Which is the first step. We admitted that we were addicts or whatever, so it's funny that that's the first step. And again, there has to be something here, but I knew that there is higher freedom, than just right here. This is awesome. It does teach lessons, like seek solutions, not problems, grow, meditate, things like that. And in my meditation, I found a lot of truths that were not truths down here, and I think that's why it's like step 11 or whatever, way down here about meditating. But why this is really important for me, right? And I stayed on this for a long time, a few years, in fact, in this 12-step program. And if you don't get out of that, what happens, and it's very possible, and it happens to a lot of people, it becomes a treadmill. or actually like an escalator, where the escalator is going down while you're walking up, which means you're not going to get very far on your life's journey towards true freedom. You're just going to pretty much stay in this area instead of up here, because a lot of people believe that you can't get up here if you were down here, which that's bullshit. Bullshit, and this is true freedom, life, unlimited, uncapped, no labels, nothing but pure love is up here. Also down here too, but the problem is when you're on this, you start hearing things in the program like, the ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death, right? Jail, we'll just say institution and death, all right? You start repeatedly, if you go to meetings, you start hearing this a lot. Every single day you start hearing the jails or the ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death. Like that word always, you don't really consciously aren't aware of it, but your subconscious picks up on these things like, well, it's always the same: jails, institutions, and death, right? Unless you stay on this escalator going down while you're traveling and you're going up. Unless you stay here, the ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death. Also says basically what the subconscious picks up on is, well, if I say, for me, true freedom also means that I can have a glass of wine, I can have a beer, or maybe two with a meal, not all the time. Even though if you believe you can, because I'm a big believer in whatever we truly believe, that's what shapes our reality, and through some self-development, through meditation, through being around high frequency people that are living their truth, that are embodying love itself, you start seeing. And too, I even went to a Wanderlust, little mini one-day Wanderlust event in Atlanta. And what's cool is when you're around that many people doing yoga, meditating, running, doing like a little 5K, and you start seeing that the vibration of people that live in this true freedom, which is where my soul lives, it's a higher vibration than here, and it's a higher vibration than here. Again, this was chapters that I needed to experience in my life. My soul needed that to kind of, I think, get me ready for this true freedom. But we stay down here too long, what happens is if true freedom for you means that, yeah, I can have a glass of wine, your subconscious, when you're drinking that wine, says, you know what, there's guilt, there's shame, based on this programming down here from the program, because it's not evolving as people, or in science says, yes, the subconscious makes most of the decisions, whatever you tell it. Plus the word addict, get this, I had to look this up when I first got clean and I first did my step work. The word addict, from what I was told, and I believe this to be true, that it means slave, right? Every day you go into a meeting, you say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'm a slave, or I'm so-and-so and I'm an addict. That's a very low vibrational, low frequency word and a label that you're telling yourself, and your subconscious is going to do whatever it has to do to make that true. Just like for people that say I'm ugly, the subconscious is going to do whatever it has to do to make that a reality, because it's kind of like, it just goes along, it does what you tell it to do, basically. So it grabs a hold of this, or alcohol, the same thing, and it's going to do whatever it has to do to make that a reality. Now, for a lot of people, they're content here, right, working on the same things over and over and over, because they don't think that they can have true freedom. They just don't, because down here says you are a disease, or you have a disease. In fact, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like, hey, I'm an addict, and they say that addiction is a disease, then that's also telling your subconscious that you're not the same as everybody else on the planet. Somehow you're different. Not true. We, on a soul level, we're all the same. And everybody can have true freedom. Now, here's the catch. If you believe that wine or a beer is going to send you back down here, which is going to be jails, institutions, and death, you believe that because of this programming, then that's going to be your reality. But if you believe in the truth that this doesn't mean that, unless you give it meaning down here, which that's what this does, because it's not a evolved program out there saying that as science, as awareness, as consciousness increases, so does our steps, so does our principles, concepts, traditions, whatever you want to call it, then that will evolve with the whole universe as a whole. Then I think saying I am would no longer be part of the program, because they realize, and this has been proven in a lot of communities, any word that follows I am becomes your reality. So for me, I say I'm me. I'm me, and I'm free. All right. I'm me and I'm free. It started out as saying I'm living proof that no problem is permanent, right? It evolved to I'm me and I'm free, because this right here is such a high vibrational, love-based, not fear-based, not fear, which is jails, institutions, and death. It's all love-based, and it's evolved way of my truth. So basically, there's going to be more on this coming soon, where like I have a blog on WordPress. It's called freenotsober, and that's important too, because if you do decide, hey, I don't want to ever have a glass of wine, have a beer, I love this freedom, right? And for me, freedom doesn't mean that. Freedom just means not drinking at all, not doing anything like that. That's great too, that's your choice, but so is that a choice? But if that's the case, just reframe it. Instead of drop the addict, drop the word sober, because the word sober even implies on a subconscious level that you're saying no to something. With saying no to like alcohol or drugs is different than saying yes to freedom. It's totally different. You may say, well, that's the same thing. It's not. One is a very low vibration, fear-based, resistance type thing, and the other one is acceptance, exciting, love-based, life-based, energy, enthusiastic bliss. A lot of things are associated with this that's not with this, because whatever we resist persists. So in other words, if it's just like no to drugs, no to this, no to that, saying no, 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 talking about your story, just staying on this little loop for your whole life or for years, you end up staying there and you don't end up here. Now, if you're content there, awesome, for you. I'm not. My truth is true freedom. And just to kind of share my experience for quite a few months now, it's now July, and since March, I have had a glass of wine here and there, probably once, twice a week, something like that, or a beer. I like beer with like Mexican food sometimes. Again, that's usually like a very rare thing, but I also know subconsciously that I have a choice. That this is not you're told with this that there is no choice. With this, there is a choice. We always have a choice. But again, I believe this to be true, so it is true. I don't believe this to be true, so it's not true. So that's really cool. And again, I say this because I think it's really important. The news I got about the guy that I knew who had overdosed and died. He was here. He was free at one point because I remember talking to him about, like Eckhart Tolle and some really cool, like 4 agreements type stuff, and that's stuff that's up here. But again, going consistently to a program where you're getting programmed, that's why it's called a program. And sure, there's some positive stuff here, but there's also a lot of limiting labels, limiting beliefs, stuff that can get you clean. But if you stay here and you end up having a glass of wine, and all of a sudden from this programming you have that guilt, that shame, that subconscious belief that this is where it's going to end up because I have no choice, I have no control, I'm powerless, then that's going to be your reality. And it has to stop. Somebody has to do something, even if it's just raising the awareness and saying, sure, you can stay here if you want, but there's also another way. And you may say, how? Right? Every day I say I'm me and I'm free, right? I try to meditate every day. I go within my source, my truth, I go to high vibrational, around high vibrational people, like the Wanderlust stuff. I go to a salt song, which is sitting in truth, but it's not story recovery stuff. It's all about life, staying in the present moment. I do read a lot of books because I think it's important for me to be educated about self-development. I think physical, like exercise, is really important. Diet's really important. Remembering that there is no definition of anything until I give it that. So you don't, if you want to, and say you're free, you're in recovery, and you're like, you know what, I want to have a glass of wine every now and then, but I don't want this to be the truth, you can, okay? I'm living proof that is possible, and still be free, love people around me, grow, expand, evolve, and change, because I do that all because it's pleasure for me to grow, expand, evolve, and change, instead of waiting for something to happen where it's pain motivated. No, it's pleasure motivated. So, but that's again is a choice. And if you want to know more, check out the Free Not Sober. Just kind of Google that. I'm sure it might come up on WordPress. But I had to put this out there because I'm tired of hearing about people that like are free, and yet something happens and they go down here and it's one of these 3, which doesn't have to be the case ever. So and I've got more experience and more stories to share too with that, and I will, but this is just to put this out there because I asked the universe, how can I share my experience with this and let people know that that's possible without going here. In fact, you stay in that true freedom, because for me, true freedom looks like that. Looks like, I'm me and I'm free. And I'm not limited by any kind of. And I know I'm saying some of the things repeat like over and over, but they're really important to me. And I'm not that. I'm love. I'm free. I am source energy. I'm limitless. There are no caps to what your life can look like on the inside and on the outside. So if you're tired of that, first thing I did, I know I was going to end this video, but I have to share this. First thing I did is I had to stop putting myself in that environment where things were repetitively said, kind of like in a cult situation, where it's just every day you hear that and every day you say those words, and it's like you have to break free from that. And it took a while, because there's kind of guilt and shame and stuff, built in this, saying the only way you're going to make it is if you make meetings. The only way you're going to do this is if you work the steps, with a sponsor. You have to have all that kind of stuff. Which again, to get free from that drugs and alcohol, yes, but at some point, once you're free, it's important to drop the labels, you know, or pick up a label that's empowering, not disempowering, like free, love, truth, you know, all those things. So there we go.